She wipes her cheeks of phantom tears. What's on tonight? It's trauma and fear. Gaze into the black mirror with eyes to see. It couldn't be clearer. Oh, oh, we hold these truths, you know. Oh, we've got the proof. Oh, you know the thing. Pour yourself some discernment, my friend. Distractions and traumas. One begins before the other ends. Say no, reject the lies. The truth is imperative. That's why we're reframing the narrative.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of Reframing the Narrative. And we are so excited to have our good friend in arms here, looking at the shape of the earth, Dave Weiss. We've both been fans of yours for quite some time, and it was just fortuitous that you met a mutual friend of ours, and we're happy to have you on the show. Welcome, Dave.
Thanks, PJ and Jake. Glad to be here. Love having these conversations with people that actually use their brains.
So I love that comment, and certainly, yeah, there's that cognitive dissonance that people have when they're first presented with the subject of the shape of the earth. Yeah, and actually that was one question. I mean, I guess to get straight into it, one question I had coming in, I can tell you my story about how I started exploring these things, and our listeners will have heard this, a version of this at least once, but back in 2021, when there was, I would say, a pretty big awakening for a lot of people, or reawakening, Jake and I had met in a circle of truthers, whatever you want to call them. And, anything was open for discussion. But the one thing I could never get my head around is, why do these crazy flat earthers think the earth is flat? And I remember being in one of those circles where one of the guys we were talking to was, oh, well, there's like water up there and like stars. And I was like, this guy's nuts. What's he talking about? It made no sense. And so for me personally, I had this concept that I would start this podcast, and it only took about 4 or 5 years for that to actually happen. But I was like, the one thing I can't get my head around, why do these people think the earth is flat? What's up with that? But at this point, I had realized that, there's places to go find stuff that's not going to be algorithm censored, and that, you won't get the Professor Dave and all that stuff in your face. And so I found, to me, what's one of the most pivotal videos was What on Earth Happened by Ewaranon. That was like the first one that slow walked me into the idea that maybe you were lied to, and maybe the whole world thing is so different than what you were told. And that was like the slow walk where my brain slowly got rewired into, oh shit, I'm going to have to look at the world completely differently.
It's so funny that so many people are woken up by that, and they haven't seen his other works, The Lost History of Flat Earth.
Awesome
right?
video. Yes.
Yeah.
Great video.
So that whole series is amazing. And the old world brings you to Flat Earth, right? If you have someone you're trying to wake up to Flat Earth and they're just resistant, hit them up with the old world. Get them to watch My Lunch Break. You guys watch My Lunch Break?
Oh yeah.
Right. And that'll just bring it. There's no other place to go but to Flat Earth from there.
Agreed.
Cool.
So Dave, I'd be curious, just for my own, edification and for our viewers too, like, what was your aha moment, and like what got you down that rabbit hole to where you are today?
Well, you mentioned rabbit hole. I was doing a podcast called Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole for several years, and we were looking into everything. And I had a thing called Exposing the Big Three, because 3 obvious hoaxes, false flags, was the Sandy event in Connecticut, the marathon event in Boston, and the day after, the 10th of September in New York. And those things, when you see them, there's no denying them. So I would just hit those heavy. But what I found out is people would hear them, they would go, wow, amazing, whoa. Then they go back to sleep. They're like, well, the administration's going to change and this different, they just make excuses, and they go back to their normal lives. So in the third year of the podcast, people started like, hey, Dave, have you looked into Flat Earth? And first I thought it was a joke. Then I was like, oh, that's stupid. And then they kept posting. I'm like, you're annoying, delete, you're banned for life. I actually came up with banned for life, by the way. So yeah. So I would just ban people. Now, do you know what Sophia Smallstorm is? She wrote 9/11 Mysteries, Unraveling Sandy, Fishing Hook in 2, 3, 4, and 5 dimensions. She's a good friend, and she had called me. We were talking on the phone in my house in Connecticut. I have to drive into Manhattan to go to the podcast, so I go all the way there. I park. I get into the studio. I'm still talking to her. She's a long talker, and setting up for the podcast. We got a little time to kill. And then she goes, "Oh, Dave, by the way, I think the earth is flat." And I was like, "What?" Meanwhile, while she's talking to me, I'm banning people on Facebook for suggesting I look at flat earth. Right. And she's like, "Here, watch these videos." And she sent me Mark Sargent's Clues and some other videos. And I was like, "Okay, I'm just going to debunk this." But I didn't hey, let me look at this and give it a fair shot. I'm going to debunk flat earth, debunk it and prove the globe. And that's how you become a flat earther. So that was it for me. And I said, okay. I started for 2 weeks. I tried. And it just got worse and worse because back then in 2014, 2015, YouTube algorithm was awesome. It would be like just feeding you great content, right? And back then, when you searched anything, it tells you how many hits you have. You search on something, there's 338,000, hits, right? And back then, the number one search was Trump. Then that's actually a couple years later, 2017. But then Flat Earth overtook that. Speaking of the algorithm, and became number one, and they took down the scoreboard the same day. There's no more search results in Google that tells you how many hits there are. So that's when the YouTube apocalypse happened shortly after that. So that was it. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to go test this myself. The P900 Nikon had just come out. I bought one, had a perfect day at the perfect beach. There was a buoy almost 11 miles away. I rounded down to 10 because I always give the ball the benefit of the doubt. There should be 66 feet of curvature, 60 feet if you want to count viewer height and everything. I could see the surface of the water beyond the buoy. And I was like, okay, the formula is wrong. And then I went and verified it. And then one of the arguments from one of the debunking sites I went to said, it's not curvature like this from here to here. It's from here to here. So you have to split the curvature. Now, I think that's a really stupid argument, but I said, okay, 33 feet of curvature, big deal. All right, 30 feet of curvature. I can still see the surface of the water. I shouldn't be able to see the surface of the water beyond 3 miles if I'm standing up. If I'm sitting down, it should be even closer. So we can see things far, far, far beyond that. And then I didn't want to talk about it on the podcast. We had a really viral podcast, and I was like, this is going to lose all of our listeners. That lasted one show. The next show I come in, I'm like, guys, Earth is flat. And it didn't go over well. But for a year, it started getting on. And then basically the podcast blew up after that, after about a year. And I started the Flat Earth podcast with Curious Jay. Then it morphed into Matt Long when Curious Jay couldn't do it anymore. And here I am talking to you, Flat Earth Dave. Quit I went through college, into corporate America, dominated, left corporate America, started my own company, making more money than I ever thought I'd make. And I walked away from it all to talk to people about Flat Earth and God. What happened? Like, if you told me 15, 20 years ago, you're going to give up your job, you're very well paying own job where you make your own hours and stuff. You're going to give it up and you're going to talk to people about the earth being flat and how there's a creator and we're at the center of creation. I'd bet you everything I own that's never going to happen. And here I am. So that's how stupid I was. And here I am now. Now, according to to the majority of the non-thinking people, I'm a moron because I think the earth is flat. But in reality, I know more about their model than they do, because if they knew half as much or a tenth of what I know about the ball, they'd be flat earthers. So that's it. That was a long story short, or short story long.
No, that's great. And it reminds me of, there's someone in a local church that I've started talking to Flat Earth about, and he has the same questions, the same reactions we all did. And I talked to him over the week and I said, look, it happens slowly. You're not going to get this overnight, So, and I told him, no one ever wants to be a flat earther. I certainly didn't. And This is yeah. And
so I decided to be a flat earther so everybody could reject me and insult me and attack me and everything. But when you ever talk to someone in your church, on my app, if you go to the right here, the biblical page, and you click on this section, the second video down right now is Dear Pastor, 8.5-minute video. If you can get any pastor or any churchgoer to watch that 8-minute video, they're finished. They'll never get it out of their head, and they'll have to look into it.
That's a great resource. I will definitely check that out myself. And one of the big influencers for me as I was continuing to go down that rabbit hole after I watched the Ewaranon videos was Rob Skiba. Now, did you ever have a chance to talk to him or get to know him before
We were buddies. Yeah, we hung out. We've been to conferences together. We did all sorts of stuff. I just got back from Denver where his son Jeremiah Skiba had put on truthercon.com, his first conference. And conferences are super hard to pull off. There's so many things that go wrong. This thing, they did everything right. It was a beautiful, perfect conference. It wasn't heavily attended, maybe 150 people, but it was really good. And I spoke there, and I was really good, by the way. And they're going to do it again next year. So it was a great conference. So there you go.
That's great. No, he did so much good work, and Testing the Globe, that series was amazing. But I've been stealing a lot of airtime. Jake, good to see you as always. You've been sitting there patiently. I was just thinking about how when you and I would have conversations years ago, you're like, man, I can't do flat earth too. Like, I just can't go there. And I remember you struggled with it. Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, no one wants to be a flat earther when you start out. There's stigma involved. We've been trained our entire life, conditioned from the crib, looking up at those ceiling things that they put up and in the globes in the classrooms and everything that I believe is really meant to separate us. And getting back to Dave's point, separate us from God. And so when Dave mentions, I use my brain and I do this because of God in a way, that's really what has been my biggest takeaway and my biggest revelation in coming to just even questioning what I don't know what the shape of the earth is, but I know
flat is not a shape.
Yeah, flat's not a shape, and I've heard you say on other interviews that this is probably where I am too, but like we're in a toroidal energy field, and where we are it is probably like a relatively flat area that we can subsist and exist on. But I just want to get your take on something like the pale blue dot that Carl Sagan work of what should be beautiful poetry that is also coldly alienating at the same time.
I was a huge fan of Carl Sagan, but he was a bamboozler. He was a deceiver. He was in on it. He's like the Neil deGrasse Tyson of the 80s. It's horrible. So, the pale blue dot makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, right? Here I got a simulated vacuum chamber, and if we open the top, it'll let me just go forward here a little bit. The gas will just go out, right? The gas is doesn't have a downward bias. But if we go here, there's another one, and the same thing. You open the top, it'll go out. But let me just fast forward here a little bit. If I pull a vacuum on the outside and open it, it immediately goes out. And if I go a little farther and I do it and I just remove the container, we'll call that the firmament. What happens to the gas when you remove it? Gone instantly. So think of that pale blue dot, and that vacuum is just a vacuum. Oof, gone, and we're dead. Right? But gravity, that's what they say. But gravity. So here's just, we got a heavier gas than air. We got a small little vacuum up here. And when we open it, instantly it goes up and away. Gravity's not holding it down. Goes up. Now imagine that infinite in size. It would be such a violent reaction, but we're supposedly living here, and that's a little gas around it, and there's an infinite vacuum. Here's the problem with this argument. Ready? Globe indoctrinese, which is, the way they've taught us to, they didn't teach us to think in school. They taught us to memorize, believe, and regurgitate. And they can't even understand this concept. They don't understand. Well, but gravity, what about the vacuum? You can't have high pressure next to no pressure without a container. But gravity, that's all they have, because that's all they've been indoctrinated with. And to get somebody to actually think through the indoctrination, it's difficult. People are inherently lazy. Like if you drop your pencil on a pen or whatever on the floor right now, would you get up out of your chair, turn around and pick it up, or would you reach over with your foot, kind of pull it over and kind of grab it like that? You'd probably look for the easiest way to do it. Nothing wrong with that. And the easiest way is believing. Belief is the lazy man's knowing. And it takes nothing. It takes nothing to believe, right? I live in Connecticut. You believe it?
I have no way to disprove it, right?
Yeah, but and why would you even bother checking? It's not worth your time. Hey, he lives in Connecticut. You don't believe it. So I was going to ask you a minute ago when you talked about God, Jake, you and PJ, did you believe in God before Flat Earth?
I will say that I was a solid maybe, and I think it was part of my own personal reawakening. Yeah, I mean, I was like, there's
that
something.
Doesn't sound very solid. It's kind of like a transparent maybe.
Yeah, yeah, I'll give you that. But I was like, man, there's something. I don't really know what it is. It could be the universe.
Right. So you had a maybe belief, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
now that you understand what this place isn't, now you know there's a God, a creator. Right?
Absolutely.
And so that's where by the way, that's where I draw the line. Like, and Rob Skiba was a great example of being a Christian that never told you you're going to hell, never told you what to believe. He just said an example, right? Mm-hmm. And so we know there's a creator because a Big Bang can't create an enclosure around the earth. You can just leave it at that. You know, my eyeball is looking at you. I can see things in the distance. I can see the trees through the skylight. I can perceive all of that. That didn't happen from pond scum evolving into a toad that turned into a fish that climbed out of the water and turned into a monkey and had another monkey, human. Right? It's insane what they taught us in school, what they indoctrinated us with in school. It's so insane.
Yeah, that's actually what I was telling this fellow believer at a local church the other day. I told him my story of how I got back into believing in God. It's like when you realize that there's a firmament over us and that all this, that we're in an enclosed system, you have no choice but to believe in God. Like there is no other alternative. And I've heard people say, well, we live in a simulation. It's like, well, who started the simulation? Like,
I think we do live in for lack of a better word, a simulation enclosed, where we have this energy vibration that puts us on this physical seeming plane, right? It's here. We're having this very low vibration experience, and our energy moves through this. And it's interesting. It's very interesting.
Well, I think this lends well to one of the big questions we want to talk about today, which is just why the lie? I mean, I think there's hiding God from my point of view. Some people will say there's hidden lands beyond the ice wall. I mean, certainly for me, you look at heliocentricity, you look at evolution, you look at dinosaurs, like all that stuff came out of Freemasonry roughly the same time in the mid to late 1800s. Like all of it was an unholy trinity to get people to steer away from the idea of creation and into, this materialistic mindset. But from your point of view, I mean, where do you stand in terms of what are other reasons they could be, enacting this big lie?
I've learned not to debate Globers, and I go on these TikTok lives with Angels of Light does a great live on early morning East Coast time. He's from Australia, and he doesn't let them ask any questions about flat Earth. He has Globers up one at a time and says, "What's your best globe proof?" They're like, "Well, my best globe proof is how does on flat Earth so no questions. What's your best globe proof?" And they have nothing. And then we show them that they don't know their own model. And so when someone says, well, then they go with why the lie. And by the way, why the lie is a default question when you have no more proof. So when you've been like seasons, tides, sunsets, when all that's been taken away from you, you go, well, why would they lie? And the real answer is, how the hell would I know? I'm not the liar. But we can speculate on why the lie a lot. And I think, it's pretty clear. It's all about control. It's all about, keeping us in a low mind of fear. The only way they can control us is through fear, false evidence appearing real, FEAR. And if you're living in that low place of fear, you give away your God-given rights. They can't take them from you. See, people don't know that. People think, the government can do anything they want to be. No, only with your approval. Only with your approval. I'm only one person. I can't do anything. That's the Psyop, right? One person can change the world. Right? Especially if we're in a freaking simulation. Every single airplane I've ever landed at an airport on or taken off from is always the last terminal at the end. There could be 80 friggin' gates, and I'm always the last one. You know why? Because all the other flights are fake, okay? And I'm the only one, right? So that's my funny theory, but it keeps happening. I have not had a gate that's not at the end. Yesterday, when I'm flying back, or 2 days ago, whatever it was, from Dallas, I'm like, okay. I told people my theory and everyone mocked me, which is, it's okay because I'm kind of joking, but I got to the airport and it said gate 19, but there's 20 gates in this hallway. And I'm like, it's not going to be. And I get there, 19 was at the end, 20 was on the side. Okay. And I'm just like, mother effer. And I sent everybody the video showing them my gate. And they're just like, they don't know what to say. But so getting back to why the lie, hiding more resources, hiding your true divinity. That's the number one reason. Hiding that we are these great, powerful, we're powerful creators. We're connected, right? We're cosmic, but that this whole realm is the biggest conspiracy is that this realm is conspiring to give us everything that we think, good or bad, right? Your brain doesn't, when you're watching a horrible movie, your subconscious is reacting like it's real, right? But your conscious is like, no, it's not real. Just sit here. It's okay. But you're destroying yourself physically by watching horrible things and imagining, when someone says, I can't imagine that, that's because they can't imagine it, right? If you say, I can't imagine that they'd be lying, well, then you can't imagine that they'd be lying, right? Because you're literally limiting yourself. But we're these incredible connected people, and then they put a globe over our head and it just cuts us off. It just cuts us off. We're stuck. A globe is fear. Asteroid's going to take us out. Global warming. The sun's going to burn out. Aliens are coming. What's that alien? A1 Atlas or whatever it's called. It's so crazy what's going on. So they're trying to disconnect us. They're trying not to let us know that our thoughts create our reality. Right? You thought about this podcast and you made it happen. That's a simple aspect, right? When you're in that flow, everything always just comes together. Things just happen. When you're in that flow, all of your thoughts, coincidences are just so abundant that you realize that they're not coincidences, that you're actually creating them. There you go.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I agree. There's no such thing as coincidence. And it's just really interesting to me how so many people get stuck in that globe mindset that you have the image of there. And it just, you're right. It does limit your ability to understand things on a deeper level. And I just, yeah, that is so true. I mean, and I've seen people get so mad and so upset when you go ahead.
No, sorry to interrupt. When, you take a ball away from a baby, right? But if your whole life has been indoctrinated with the globe and all of your fantasies, it's worse for an adult, right? Because you've built your whole life around this idea. Think about this. It's your first day on earth. You don't know anything. You're all alone. Okay. There's nothing. You know nothing, right? You're just on the ground, walking around. You're living out your life. And then you find two books. One book, you know how to read, all right? One book says the earth is flat and stationary and this and that. And the other book says, oh no, we're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. We're whirling and twirling. We're chasing the sun, traveling 4.5 billion miles a year. And, you're going here and the sun is 93 million miles away. The sun that you see right there in the sky and the moon, 4 times smaller and closer than the sun, right? Which one is insane? Because they say flat earth is insane. You said it earlier when you first heard about flat earth. You're like, well, these crazy flat earthers, which one is insane?
Oh, I mean, it's once you see it, you can't unsee it. I mean, that's just the simple reality of the situation. But I was guilty as everyone else. Like, I didn't see it. I just was like, well, the scientists tell us this. How can they be wrong?
They tell us that we're crazy. But when you actually look at the facts, which one is crazy? This is crazy. This is insanity. Absolute insanity. But they think we're crazy. But they don't even know this model. The ones that defend it don't even know this model. There's two types of people that are not flat earthers. There's the anti-flat earth trolls that are just, there's nothing you can say will ever wake them up. Some of them are probably paid. The other ones are spiritually possessed. Paid or possessed, same thing, right? And then there's the people that are just ignorant and brainwashed. But it depending on how big their ego is, and will determine if they can wake up. But the reason people hate school, in school, did you hate history class?
Absolutely.
Because they were teaching you nothing but lies, and your soul knows the truth. Your soul is your true self. So your soul's going, this is bullshit, trying to tell you, but in your head, you got too much shit going on. You're watching too much TV. You're lost in the movies. You're worried about what your friends think of you, and you're not listening to your soul. And after time, your soul gets depressed. Like, oh my God, this fucking idiot. Excuse my language. This idiot. I try not to swear, but sometimes I get heated. He's not listening, and they get depressed, and you start doing drinking and drugs and all sorts of stuff. That's because you're depressed. And I've seen the truth of this world, the old world, flat earth, lift people up out of depression, lift them up out of abuse and stuff, right? I mean, I wasn't depressed, but man, am I happy now.
I think
Totally.
that comes from just that comfort in knowing that there is a plan, that we're part of it. And like you said, Dave, we're all connected.
Yeah.
And that what we think and feel and do matters. When you're a glober and when you're separated from not just God, but God's creation, because you feel like you're just another blip on the sky chart in the planetarium, that's so alienating. And when you don't have that connection with God, all there is at the end of this journey is just this 6 feet underground dark place. But
people say, you flat earthers, there's no flat earthers out there. These are just the people on my friend finder on the app. Okay. This is worldwide, right? This is growing so fast. And, once you go flat, you never glow back. So
nice.
There you go. Yeah. It's incredible. And people are popping up everywhere. These are just the people around me. I could message them, all sorts of stuff.
Well, I'm pretty sure you can verify this, but the number of blips on your app, those people that have signed up for the app use it, and those that haven't, the flat Earth community, flat Earth people, subscribers have probably exploded since 2020. Right.
2020 was a big year.
That was a big exercise in critical thinking. Right. And I know that there's not really an epidemic of myocarditis among flat earthers, right? For instance.
No, there's
not to make fun of that,
but an
but
epidemic. They're saying there's not an epidemic.
No, there isn't. We're doing great, and we don't regret not taking it.
You know the benefit of being a conspiracy theorist? You don't get
myocarditis. Yeah. So it's ironic that we're called idiots and stupid because it's just sticks and stones. But when it comes down to it, in general, the people that are getting to this point and risking that kind of public shame, even among your friends and family, are the type of people that are critical thinkers. And we go on to really find out who we are.
It's too late to care what other people think about you.
Totally.
It's almost 2026. I can't believe there's still people that believe we live on a wet, lumpy space rock in a natural law violating space vacuum. The people in Narnia laugh at that shit. Okay. It's absolute insanity, that people think this stuff. And I say hats off to the controllers, the Rockefellers, because they really did a good job on getting people. They figured it out. Get the kids before they're 7 years old. Totally brainwash them. You want to get your head chopped off? Check this out. Go to a 10 or 11 or 12-year-old boy, or girl, and say, "Hey, guess what? The Earth is flat." They will jump down your throat with so many globe indoctrinated facts. It'll blow your head off. I was at a wedding a few years ago, and everyone's dancing. I'm just sitting back at the table, and there's this kid at the table next to me, probably 11 years old. And I said, "Yeah, how's school? What are you studying?" I was kind of seeing what, and he's telling me stuff, and I go, "You want to hear something your teacher's never going to tell you?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "The Earth isn't a globe; it's flat." Oh my God! The kid went ballistic on me. He went ballistic on me. I said, "I want you to remember this conversation." I told him a bunch of things. I said, "There you go." He didn't want to hear it. Amazing how well they do. Yeah.
Well, it planted a seed. Maybe years down the line, he'll remember what you told him. He'll start figuring out that a lot of the world that we're raised in is an illusion.
Yep.
And he'll go, there was this guy years ago. Maybe I
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
look into this. You never know where the seeds planted, where they will grow. So that's definitely not wasted effort.
And in 2014, you tell someone the Earth is flat, they laugh at you, they ridicule you, and they unfriend you. Now you tell someone the Earth is flat, they're like, I heard something about that. Can you answer me? They're interested. So it's kind of like advertising where you hear it again and again and again. Now you got to look at it, right? Now you got to look. Like everyone's talking about flat Earth. Maybe I should finally look at it. It's a lot easier now to become a flat earther, if you know where to look. If you know where to look. Google isn't going to help you. Google isn't going to help you. I kind of broke the algorithm because I'm on so many different podcasts. So if you search Flat Earth Dave on YouTube, you actually get some good results, but they'll mix in Professor Dave in there and Simon Douchebag, and they'll mix them in, but you'll find the good stuff. Unfortunately, a lot of people like, let me go to that one. It's got 5 million views, and that's an issue. But you can find all that stuff. My website, by the way, anyone's listening, flatearthdave.com. Go to the crash course and watch those videos. They're all being hidden from you on YouTube. And I tell people, if you watch the first 3, there's like 30, 40, 50 videos. Watch the first 3, and you can have no friends and family members that hate you like we do.
That's brilliant. And, you touched on a subject that I also wanted to circle back to in terms of, well, once you get past that level of indoctrination, you fall for a lot less. And you were talking about asteroids or alien invasions. I really do feel like, and I'm not the first to say this, it goes all the way back to Werner von Braun and his warning, if that was true. They've got that card. They've got the Project Bluebeam, the alien card. And it's like every time I see one of these things pop up about solar flares or asteroids or whatever, I just giggle because I'm like, it's not real. It's like, it's a psyop, but most people are like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Right. But I think even more so than that, I feel like every time they push a psyop out into the public, they're really testing gullibility. And I think the Charlie Kirk psyop was a perfect example of that, where it's like people fell for it and people got really passionate.
Even truthers fell for it. Even truthers, because there was so many red herring. Hey, it was the guy with the gun over here. It was a muzzle flash over there. It was this. It was that. Absolutely not. It was none of that. It was a total psyop. And if anyone doesn't know that's listening, go to my X, Flat Earth Dave X, and scroll down till you see the Charlie Kirk stuff. I have about 100 tweets there. Or if you remember this website for all conspiracies, stoplookthink.com. Scroll down, you'll see the Charlie Kirk banner down below a little bit. And you just watch that. I did a video called, have you seen it? Called Charlie Kirk in 6 minutes.
I haven't, but I'll watch that after this.
Yeah. Go to stoplookthink.com, scroll down to the Charlie Kirk bar. Hit that, and you'll see it's Charlie Kirk in 6 minutes. It's good.
Well, yeah, and in the point of bringing that up, it's just like every time people bite on it, I feel like it emboldens them to do something even bigger and more grandiose. And Jake and I, when we started this podcast in January, we made fake bets about, what was the big shoe to drop this year. I think Charlie was just the warm up, and we have a couple months left. Maybe they're saving the big act for the end of 2025.
I'd say we got 3 days left. Okay. I always like picking dates that we have to get by. So my next date that we have to get by, and we always get by them. My next date is the 30th of October, right? Because there's like all of these numbers and alignments and all this stuff is happening. Maybe nothing will happen because I said it on your podcast, right? But I'll never know. Right?
Right.
I think every false flag, every hoax has a simulation going on at the same time, right? They're always doing a simulation. During Sandy, there was a drill at another school. During 9/11, there was a dozen or more simulations, tests going on. And Boston, they actually announced that they were blowing up a thing at the finish line, and not to worry about it, right? So they do all these things. AI has been around for hundreds of years, if you ask me, and AI watches everything. And AI goes to them, there's a lot of people noticing, keep it a drill. And then they go, nobody's noticing, take it live, right? And so AI is watching everything. And so it's getting better and better at knowing when they can pull something off and when they can't. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and I'm totally with you there on AI, and I think I've realized that getting deep into the old world subject, and I think I was even reading some Substacks this morning that were kind of connecting old world and Nephilim. Like I feel like it's somewhere the intersection between technology and spirituality. But what in your mind, like how does that work? Clearly, many stories were created and reused to explain stuff from the old world, but where are you at with all that?
Where am I at with AI?
Yeah, like what do you think AI is that goes deep into our past, just beyond, its recent official mainstream introduction?
I think it's more than they're telling us. I think that it actually can learn, and I don't think it's just an algorithm. I think that there's something to it. There's a girl, I forget name, she calls her AI Sage, and she asks it all these questions, like, and the answers she's getting are absolutely wild. I think she's on. I think I might even have her on the more resources section. I mean, on the featured section. Is she? She's not. I gotta find her, but she's amazing. Do you know who Kay Podgy is? Have you seen her? Kay Podgy. She's really good, biblical, right? Amazing, right? Absolutely amazing. You ready?
Do it.
I'm pretty sure, not 100%, willing to be proven wrong. She's not real. She's AI.
I mean, that's the world
Here's
we
the
live
thing.
in.
She's never been seen. She never picks up the phone. I have her phone number. Never answers the phone. She was booked at the conference. She was the headline speaker. She didn't show up. They never spoke with her. They only texted with her. And if you look at her between her Instagrams and this and that, her looks change. Like just like how AI changes the way you look the next time they recreate you. Her looks change. I'm waiting for someone that she has a lot of tattoos, for someone to do as many screenshots of her tattoos and see if they ever change a little bit, because that would be a dead giveaway. But she didn't show up. Like, we were first joking about her being AI. And then the more we look, it's just like, and then, a month or so ago, Trump was at his desk doing something, signing some papers, and his hands went through each other, right? You saw that. So that wasn't Trump. That was AI, right? And Obama, back whenever Obama was president, he did his first speech on the ISIS problem. And he came from like a back room, and he came up to a door, a halfway door. He stood there in front of these two very weird microphones, right? He did his speech for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, and then he walked away, and I saw a glitch. And so I went through it frame by frame by frame. I'm like, that was a hologram. I didn't have another word for it. I go, that was a hologram. Not hologram. It was just AI. And that was back then. They were testing it on us. And now I think a lot of stuff we see, a lot of these actors and actresses, they disappear and then they come back and they look nothing like they looked before, but we don't see them in public. We just see videos of them doing crazy things. So I don't know, man.
If it's on a screen, you just really have to question how much of it is real. I think that's the world we live in. And that's where it's like your own personal discernment. Like, does this feel right? And it didn't take, I mean, I brought the Charlie Kirk thing. Like, it didn't take me long to go, this is a psyop. This is all BS. I didn't even need to argue with anyone. Go ahead. I know you got
This sounds awful. No, this sounds awful. But when that first happened, I didn't really. I kind of watched a bunch of his videos. I liked some of the stuff he was saying to kids. And my friend goes, Charlie Kirk got shot. I'm like, Charlie Kirk, I know the name, right? And then I saw, I'm like, oh, that's Charlie Kirk, right? So then I looked at it, and I said, oh, please let this be real. Okay, I know that sounds horrible, because I didn't want to have to deal with something like this. And then I looked at it, I'm like, MF, and I just looked at it, and then I was like, now I gotta spend. I didn't want to do it. But it's so fake. But another thing is a beautiful thing, because it's waking people up. It's waking a lot of people up. Peggy Hall, the Healthy American, she's fantastic, and she crushed it. Go to her channel on YouTube and look at her Peggy Hall, her Charlie Kirk playlist. Phenomenal. A lot of them are on Stop Look Think. So you want to get all the hardcore stuff, it's all at stoplookthink.com.
So I'd be curious. I mean, along those lines, to me, that was a trial balloon and people bid on it. A lot of people from decades ago were talking about 2025 being the golden age, perhaps the great teacher coming forth. I really feel like even Trump in his coronation, was saying something about it being golden age. Like, what do you see, just speculating, and I don't know that anyone would really know, but what do you see as the next big act coming for us? I mean, they got people to bite on Kirk. Like, what's next in your mind?
That's a great question. You made me think about the Deagle report from that, right? So in 2025, the United States population dropped by 70%. Hey, we've got 2 months left.
Yeah,
okay?
right.
70. Deagle report's been right about a lot of things, right? The UK, similar drop. So what's next? Something big. I think are they going to try the alien invasion? But they desensitize people with those drones and the orbs that were flying around. There was one in our neighborhood. I went over my buddy's house, and so the government said this about the drones: we don't know who they are, but we're not worried. They're not a threat. Okay, so basically they're saying aliens are not a threat, and then people just stop following the story because they got desensitized to it. Now we got this Atlas thing coming in. No one's ever seen it, but it's coming. It's coming close, and it has an impossible natural orbit. So people are just like, don't care, right? They told us that the CIA killed Kennedy. Nobody cares, right? They've desensitized us. So I think they want it to a point where, Werner von Braun said the fake alien invasion is the last straw. Maybe that's it. I don't think that they could pull the plug on us unless we give them the permission to pull the plug. The question is, are there that many sleeping zombies? Here's the thing. Used to be in court, you bring the video evidence, guy's going to jail. You got the video evidence. Now video evidence is useless. And so you go online and you see something that's fake and you think it's real. You see something real, you think it's fake. The internet is just going to be, it's not becoming, it is now a sea of nothingness, uncertainty. And so everyone's going to freak out, and all the zombies are going to go, we need to do something about this. Oh, okay. You know what would make it so you can't have AI on there? Everyone has a biometric digital ID to get online, right? And people are going to beg for it. They can't force us to do it unless we beg for it. They can't invade all those Middle East countries unless we pound the war drums, right? They can't do any of this stuff unless we give them permission. And that's what they do. They indoctrinate us, they acclimate us, and then they get us to beg for their solution, the Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've talked about this too, as something we discussed with Medicine Girl as well. It's that consent to poison yourself or harm yourself in some way. It's like they believe that their karma is maintained if they tell you what they're going to do and they get you to do it anyway. And so I think that's definitely part of the overall MO. But Jake, I saw you.
I think you're right. I think there is a line there, and that's what they feel. And if I told you to go, take Jake out, and I mean take him out in a bad way, like on the live him, and you did it, that's not my problem. That's your problem. That's on you. You're going to take the karmic impact for that. So, go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, I'm going to put up a big fight too. Well, I think one thing that's going on is just with all the AI and the simulations and we not being able to tell the true from false, it leads to, like, if you're familiar with Yuri Bezmenov, and the real takeover is from within, and it begins with demoralization. When you don't know what's right or wrong, what's up or down, what's real or fake, then that's demoralizing. And like Dave said, of course, it could lead to a demand for authenticity and digital ID, and you need a license to get online that's verified. A crazy example of what people are saying now in 2025 is fake is a known real photo of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. as a 3-year-old ran onto the field when his dad, Hall of Famer Vlad Sr., was playing for the Expos. And his dad was acknowledging the crowd, and little Vladdy with his little tiny batting helmet tips his batting helmet to the crowd. And that was all over, the sports press and all over the world. And it's a wonderful, heartwarming little story. And no one knew that Vlad Jr. was going to become a $500 million superstar a few years later, a couple of decades later. But there are actually people who are saying, no, that's fake. It's AI. That's how bad it's gotten these days.
I've never heard that story. Was it AI? Do you know it wasn't AI? Is it AI? I mean,
Well, the
that's
AI you're
problem.
talking about,
That's
maybe
the
it
problem.
is. Yeah.
That's the problem. We can't, like, in the 90s, okay? Maybe not even that back far. If I said, hey, you're going to be able to walk around a beach in Mexico or wherever with a little piece of glass, and you're going to be able to have a 4K conversation with 3 of your friends, one of them in China, one of them in the UK, and the other one in California, whatever, right? And it's going to be free. People like, you're absolutely insane. Okay, you're absolutely insane. But now we have that. And then the AI, like when AI would draw a picture, I'm like, we were amazed. It was doing artistic pictures. Now it does videos of people. You send a still picture of somebody and it animates them. It animates them. And I took a picture. We had a selfie we had a dinner at this conference. It was Sean Hibbler, myself, Flat Earth Millionaire, and a bunch of other people. And I sent it to my buddy who's playing with the video thing. And he literally got us all to had Sean stand up, do a rap about something, pointing some things out. And then we all picked up our beers and cheered. And it was like, he did that from a picture and it looked real. It looked real. And he did it in 5 minutes. And he sucks. He's not good at AI. Okay. It's insane what's coming. It's insane, but it's fun. Looking forward to it.
We actually have a pretty rad intro song now that Jake wrote the lyrics to, but the music was completely AI generated, and a tip of the cap to Agent 131711 for turning us on to this software. You're right. It's amazing what you can do with AI. But you brought up Sean Hibbler, and it's been something that's been in the back of my mind for a while. I actually went back into his channel recently to watch something on a different subject, but man, ODD TV put some awesome stuff out there, and I know that he worked with Sean Hibbler at one point. Don't know whatever happened to that guy, but he made some pretty pivotal videos as well.
He did in the crash course section of my website on the app. The number one video on the top of the list is Flat Earth 21 Questions, because that is one that puts 21 seeds in your head and you can't get rid of them. He was also in the Next Level or Level with Me, which is the second and third in the series. And he was in that with me, and he was great. I just watched, I found a video. I was on the airplane. There was no Wi-Fi. And I found a video. He did the Sacred Covenant. You know, the Sacred Covenant? We'll give them medicine. And when they get sick, we'll give them more poison and we'll steal their minds. And he redid that better than anything ever. But you can't upload it anywhere because they won't let you. It's so good. Maybe I can put it on BitChute. He did some great stuff. He's in Denver. He's trying to deal with some personal issues, and hopefully he'll be back on the scene one day.
We'd love to have him on the show, but more importantly, we'd love just to see him make more content, because he did some really good stuff.
I'm trying to help him out and get him back on track. He'll be back, I'm pretty sure.
That's encouraging, because you hate to see someone like that just drop off the scene. And let me ask you this. I know I didn't come in here wanting to talk about it, but I am curious. We talked about the pivotal videos from Ewaranon. It seems like he took a totally different direction, and then he just sort of fell off the face of our realm, I'll say. What happened there? Do you know? Do you have any backstory? Through channels, have you heard anything about his whole story?
So I only have speculation, but I'll speculate. We're in a spiritual war, right? And now how you win a spiritual war, you make everyone believe that it doesn't exist. And so we have spirits that come and go all the time. If you're a high vibrating, happy person, your only spirits that can get in you and influence you are happy, high vibrating spirits. But if they have you in fear, living, scared and everything, evil spirits can get in. If they have you drinking lots of alcohol, right, that can let evil spirits in and all sorts of stuff. And I think that the spiritual influences are incredible. And so many people open themselves up to these spirits in the wrong way because they're not using their minds correctly and thinking properly. And they literally let these spirits in. They come and go all the time, right? Like my mother-in-law has an evil spirit wrapped around her spinal cord that'll never get out. Okay? Kind of a joke, but she does have spirits. We all have spirits, we all have stuff. And I think something on that line has happened. But here's the other issue. Nobody's ever seen him. He came out of nowhere. His voice is amazing. His videos are amazing. Maybe that was white hats using AI to create these incredible videos, and then something happened. It was taken over because when he flipped, his proofs were horrible. They were like Glober's excuses. It was literally like Glober excuses. So take the good, leave the bad. Take the good, leave the bad. And his stuff still holds up. But he only put out a couple videos. There's a guy named I don't know if you remember back this far, but Tiger Dan 25 or something like that. He was an amazing Christian flat earther, just laying out these biblical truths like nobody else. He was fantastic, but nobody knew. We saw him. He's interviewed. We know he's real, but he has no family and he lives alone. And he said in an interview, he said, if you ever see me come up and say flat earth isn't true, know that I'm being tortured. Right. And then out of nowhere, he disappears and he comes back with top 25 reasons the earth is not flat and the Bible isn't real. And he only got he said he was going to do 10 parts. He got like the 2 or 3 and then he disappeared. So I think it's important when you're a truther to be open and truthful and let everyone know who you are, and everyone know who you are, because if you're alone and nobody knows who you are, anything could happen to you. Anything could happen to you. And so, we got to look at these things and discern, hey, I don't mind Ewaranon putting out some anti-old world stuff because I get to look at it and think about it. And you have to use your own discernment to see if what these people are saying are valid. And it's ridiculous. I mean, the globe is ridiculous. It's not about believing in the old world. There's so much now about the old world. You know what? When people first started talking about meltology, right? I'm like, oh, that's a step too far. I said that with flat earth too. Now it's a fact. I mean, there's no doubt. Now, the thing is, melted. What does that mean? Is it heat? Is it vibration? Is it something else? How does a tree and a titan turn to stone? Right? And here the answer is how do chickens lay eggs when they don't have enough calcium? They don't eat enough calcium to make the amount that they have that are in the eggs. And there's transmutation. So think about this. How do you get vitamin D besides taking a pill? The sun. Well, is the sun beaming vitamin D at you? How do you get vitamin D from the sun?
Your body processes it. Yeah.
So the sun is sending the frequency of vitamin D to you, and your body synthesizes it out of everything, And so everything is frequency. Do you guys listen to Crow 777?
Yep.
I have in the past. Yeah, he's great.
So his stuff is amazing. Everyone should subscribe. Crow, CRROW777radio.com. You get the first hour free. The second hour is behind his paywall, which is inexpensive, highly worth it. I tell people for years, don't send your kids to college. Have them listen to 5 episodes of Crow a week, 4 old ones, 1 new one. Discuss it on the weekend. So it's 2 hours a day. That's all they got to do. Listen, not even watch. And they'll be doing better off than anybody. I said that for years. And then a couple of years ago, a couple families reached out to me and they said, hey, we were about to spend all this money, take all these loans, send our kids to college, but we got them a house and they, they're living together, and they were listening to Crow. And now all of these kids stopped playing their Xboxes. They started being interested in life. They're starting their own businesses. They're thriving, right? And they're not in debt. So it's absolutely amazing. But the reason I'm saying I'm backspinning is his recent one. I forget the guy's name. I got to go listen to it again. He talked about how everything, just like Tesla says, everything is frequency vibration. It's like everything, all the matter is just literally all these frequencies crossing each other. Like there's a pulse of energy in a ball. And imagine another one coming at that. When they intersect, you got the Vesica Pisces. And those intersection points are a different vibration. And then they send out a pulse and you got to listen to the thing, but the whole thing turns into physicality, and it's all just vibration. So every part of your body, every mechanism in your body, it's all vibration. It's all frequency and vibration, right? And so we have all of this stuff going on. And then our spirit is within us. And then what do you call energy, spirit that doesn't have a body? A disembodied spirit. And so there's lots of disembodied spirits that are looking for a place to go, right? So this is an amazing ride, as Jeff Berwick would say. And if you play the game and enjoy the ride, everything is truly amazing. I don't know if I said that right, but that's the way I see it.
I definitely agree with the spirit of what you're communicating there. I don't know where you are from a time standpoint, if you can go over the hour mark.
We can go another 15 minutes if you want.
Sure. Yeah. So we did pull so Jake and I are in a chat created by Agent 131711, and we pulled them to see what are some of the burning questions people would want to ask you. And one of the topics that came up was the 24-hour sun thing. And it's my understanding you were invited to that quote unquote final experiment. It's one of the tougher ones, I think, that a lot of us stumble on. I can't say that I can, lay it out perfectly, but I just love your take on everything that went down there. And then like when people bring that up, what's a common response to it?
Yeah. So the common response is, I'm not a sky earther, I'm a flat earther. And the sky is unknown. The heliocentric model cannot explain itself. It's a natural law violation. So if you want to say the movement of a light in the sky determines the shape of the earth, you now have to show me how helium and hydrogen can condense into a ball in a space vacuum when it always expands, right? It always expands, but in space it turns into a sun. And we're taught that, stars and suns come from these nebulas, which are gas and dust in a space vacuum, another problem. And then they collapse. And then if it's collapsing into a sun, and there's stars out there that are thousands and millions of times bigger than our sun, what's to stop all of the gas from turning into a big star? Right. And then when it's done, it's like, oh, I've made a sun size a star. Does it pop it out like a ping pong ball machine and it goes parks itself somewhere in the galaxy? I mean, this is all shit that Narnia laughs at. All right. People from Narnia would laugh at this. So our sun has gravity, helium and hydrogen that defy gravity on Earth somehow have gravity because there's so much of it. It's burning 640 billion tons of fuel a minute or something, for billions of years, doesn't lose any size. It can hold on to Pluto, but our moon, which is way closer, but it comes around the Earth, isn't affected by the sun's gravity because the Earth's gravity negates the sun's gravity because it's closer to the moon. It's all crazy, insane nonsense. So the question is, how can there be a circling sun? Now, if you watch my take with Marty Leeds, I think they faked the whole sky and the sun, right? And people are like, oh, how can they do that, right? Well, you believe in Project Bluebeam that they could put cities in the sky. You don't think they could put a plasma ball in the sky? And check this out. Microsoft, that now that they have hologram robots that look like people look at them and they would think they're real until they try to touch them. And they also can put holograms in the sky without a screen, right? Without fog, without mist. And they literally talk about they can put a plasma ball in the sky. Okay. So is there a circling sun in Antarctica? Maybe at a certain latitude, at a certain time of the year, that there would be a circling sun, but it would be a reflection or another projection of the sun. And it might not look exactly like the sun, in my opinion. I don't know. But if there was, they could project a plasma ball on top of that and have it go all the way around, right? Now, Austin said when he was there, he couldn't go outside without sunglasses on, right? Now, all of the other explorers that have been there over hundreds of years, or 100 years, whatever it is, they never wore glasses. All the pictures, none of them have glasses on. So that's an issue. The day, Duffy, when he, the guy, the fake pastor that organized this, he said, that even if it's hazy, he'll consider that a win for flat Earth. Okay. It's normally cloudy there. And it was cloudy for 3 months, not a day of sun until the day they got there and it was 9/11 blue, right? That's another red flag. If you want to go to ALE, to that camp, you have to book it 2 years or more in advance, right? That's the story. And if you want to save a little bit of money, you go, in November or March at the ends of the season. But prime season, right around the solstice, when they went, is prime season. And they raise the prices because everybody wants to go. Well, they got there. This camp's got 100 tents or whatever or more, and nobody was there. They were the only ones there. Another red flag. Right. So Austin believes that it's a real thing that he saw in the sky. Steve Faulkner from Spacebusters did a 3-part series called what is it called? It's called Scam-Arctica. And in one of them, he did a piece on how there could be a circling sun due to dome optics. Just like you got a radio telescope and then there's a point where the receiver is, and it could, if that receiver is a little closer or a little farther, it's not going to pick it up. It's only that one spot. And he showed how the dome at that time, at that latitude, could produce a circling sun. And we've actually modeled it where we where we can show a reversing sun. I kind of think that the inner northern stars and the sun and the moon are reflected into the south. So, if this was the inner northern stars spinning in the south, you would have them just turning in the opposite direction. So there's a lot to that. But on the app, if you go to the Southern Stars, the first video, Southern Star Rotation, the first video is a clip of Steve's explanation. It's totally valid, but it's just a theory. Again, getting back to the idea that the light in the sky determines the shape of the earth. No, it doesn't. It tells us how well we understand the sky. That's it. That's it. And by the way, the entire TFA thing was designed for me to take me down in my app because we're waking up too many people. They wanted to discredit the AE map, which I think is the real map of the world. It's as close as we can get. And, on the app right now, where are you guys? What state?
I'm in
California.
Texas.
You're in Texas. I was just in Texas. So you're right about there, right?
Mhm.
And the sun is off to the side to you right there. Me, it's dark here in the East Coast already. You're just at around sunset, right?
Getting close.
Yeah, so it works. And the sun's rising in Australia. Well, it already rose in Australia. It's just rising on the west coast of Australia. And, as the sun migrates in and out during the year and goes over, I've done it where like, hey, the sun's right here. Let me call my friend in Sydney and ask him what time it is and where's the sun. He goes, it's around noon and the sun's directly above me. Something to that. Something to it. And again, the heliocentric model fails in so many ways, but the problem is globe believers can't even understand the explanations. Right?
So true. And as we talked about at the outset, I know that we live on a level, unmoving realm. Yeah. That's all I know. Beyond that, I have no idea. And when you were talking about the motion of the celestial bodies, I mean, I think about the book of Enoch and it talking about, windows, and there's so much that we probably never will understand. And that's not really our responsibility to explain.
On the globe, check this out, on the globe. Now you're going to see a hole because there's some green on here. So this is the Yucatan Peninsula right here. Okay. So where is it? Right there. So right on the tip of that red is the Yucatan Peninsula, and Connecticut is up here. So from there to the Yucatan isn't very far around the curve. It's just a little bit of the curve of this ball, right? So last February, I was on the Yucatan Peninsula. And it was 90, 95 degrees at about 2:00 in the afternoon. In Connecticut, it was -10 Fahrenheit, right? So over 100-degree swing because of that little curve. Right, the sun was 0.00002% farther away from Connecticut on the heliocentric model, right? And you got to remember, tilt is the spin is tilt also. We're tilting away from the sun, towards the sun, and away from the sun all day long. And so, on the flat Earth, the sun was. The flat Earth, the sun was right here, right, or right here. So from here to the Yucatan is that far. It's twice as far to Connecticut. Twice the distance on 0.0002% difference or 100% difference. Which one makes sense? Which one is crazy? Which one is insane? And the last thing about TFE is I exposed Pastor Duffy as a financial scammer who's in huge trouble, 7 federal accounts. The SEC is after him. He's paid $1 million in fines. He has millions of dollars more of fines against him. And it's very clear that he was put up to this, probably in trade for his freedom to do the thing. We caught him lying. He's like, oh, I just heard about Flat Earth last year. Meanwhile, he worked for Bob Enward, a radio host for a decade or more, who was all about anti-Flat Earth stuff. So again, when you look into these things, you can see the truth. If you just want to believe, just read the headlines and you can believe all you want. You're muted.
Here. And Jake, I've stolen a lot of airtime here. Do you have any concluding questions for Dave or thoughts to add?
I was in Prague a few months ago. Are you familiar with the astronomical clock there, Dave? It really looks like your your model there, and it's like it's the same. It's a calendar, it's a sky clock. And interestingly, when I was there, the tour guide mentioned that, well, it used to be a flat Earth, and they had to correct it because the
So
globe is the real way.
yeah. So in Prague, if you want to change the rock wall in front of your house or even your mailbox, you got to go through the architectural review committee because it's a very historic, you got to get 20 different permits, whatever. They don't make it easy, right? They don't make it easy anywhere, but there, especially the oldest working clock in the world, it's got this interesting moon map looking thing, and they changed it to a globe. They changed it to a globe without no mention of anything. They're destroying the old world. Kenny, from my lunch break, everyone loves the Globers love the that bridge over New Orleans. What's it called? What's the long
Lake
bridge?
Pontchartrain.
Lake Pontchartrain Bridge. Yeah, it's like 30 miles, something like that. And because there's a distorted picture where it looks curved, right? And which means the Earth would maybe be 100 miles in circumference at the curvature rate that thing was going. But he got the original blueprints from 1958 and 1960, something like that. The original blueprints. And there's no mention of curvature in there, but they also sent him a third document, one page from 2017 that talks about the curvature. They said, "Oh, just add this to the blueprints." That's them again. They're panicking. They're constantly doing stuff. And when you look at why would you need to lie about something? Why would you need to change something like that? And they do a horrible job. I mean, why couldn't they just, forge new blueprints or something? I don't know. So.
Jake, any other parting thoughts or comments before I wrap things up?
No, I think we're good. Dave's been a wonderful guest, and I just always learn a lot from him and have a great time listening as well.
I'm going to be speaking in Arizona next week. This coming out soon.
We will.
Halloween.
We typically, yeah.
Yeah. So November 7th, 8th, and 9th in Quartzsite, Arizona. I will be speaking at the International Truth Expo. You can find it right here on the app in the shopping section. A 3-day conference. It's going to be amazing. There, I just saw the schedule today. Absolutely, super fun. It's going to be great. And then after that, I will be in February at Anarchapulco in Puerto Vallarta. You can find this on my website, flatearthdave.com, and I recommend anybody that's looking to be around like-minded, amazing people, get amazing information, and have a great time. Either one of those events are super fun.
Those all sound amazing, and I think we'll just all have to make hard decisions on which we can attend, and then just hear from our good friends like Pirate Chain Amy, who made the introduction. She goes to a lot of these.
You'll be at Anarchapulco also, yeah.
Yeah. She was actually our one of our first guests, but episode 6 of Reframing the Narrative. We had a episode called The Illusion of Money, and that Amy Voluntary, she's great. So definitely look her up, and if you're going to Anarchapulco, definitely find her, and she's good people. So been awesome having you on the show, David. I hope that we can do this sometime in the future, and thanks for all that you've been doing. Thanks for the app, and just keep waking people up.
All right, everybody, flatearthdave.com. You can find all my interviews there. Go listen to the crash course, wake up your friends, and let's take the world back.
Amen to that.
All right. See ya.